Black people are prisoners of war. The non-white people of the planet in the system of white supremacy were born in captivity. We're still born in captivity, all of us. Everybody of color on the planet is born in captivity. Captivity to whom? To racist man and racist woman, the white supremacists of this planet. You're born inside of their prison because they dictate what you do in all 9 areas of activity and what you don't do. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.
Now, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Politics, Economics, the Struggle to Survive in America. I'm your host. My name is Jerrald President. And the reason why I led off with that one, that quote, that synopsis by Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. was 2 weeks ago, they had hearings on reparation. Matter of fact, it was June 19th, 400th year. As you see, got on my new shirt, black and gold, one of my best sellers. I appreciate that for everybody who purchased it. Now, let me digress, go back. And so, on June 19th, they had hearings on reparations. And they had a group of individuals who was pro and con in relation to what happened to our ancestors and my ancestors here on the North American continent. Now, I'm not here to bash anyone. What I'm going to do, I'm going to play some excerpts from 2 major characters that was on the stage. 2 characters I've never heard of in my life. And I am a consumer of information. Never heard of these individuals. But they was afforded the opportunity, of course, on the opposite side of the reparations. These individuals brought out there by the Republican Party. Now, first I'm going to lead in. I'm going to bring in Dr. Cornel West. Now, he was in a church, and again, I'm not a proponent of any of these people that you see me put on here. What I like to do is just want you to hear out of their own mouths, how they relate to these different topics. And so I want you to listen to Mr. Cornel West. And I want you to listen explicitly on what's going on in America. Now, after Dr. Cornel West, I'm going to play an individual who received this meritorious manumission papers. Maybe 60 years ago. See, these, again, remember, meritorious manumission was descendants of slaves, Africans, who would snitch on other Africans who were trying to either escape, kill, or do any type of thing to gain their freedom. And they would always snitch on the other slave, which is why we still deal with that. It's in our DNA, it's in our blood of what we were bred to do to one another. Now, we're not going to talk about what happened on the continent of Africa. See, that's what they love to do. They love to say, hey, your own people grab you. I'm going to argue that. But we're going to talk about the inhumanity and inhumane treatment that was inflicted upon my ancestors and the breeding and the constant raping and the constant, how shall I say it, watching, surveillance, the destruction of my ancestors. You see, in order for us to be where we are right here, that meant that my ancestors had to be extremely powerful and courageous people to withstand such brutality that went on for centuries. Don't let no one tell you slavery went on everywhere. No, see, that's people playing games with you. We're only going to discuss what happened here on this continent, this landmass that they call North America. Now, for us to be here 400 years, now again, we was here already before they ever came here. But for the purposes, as I always say, we're going to go from their documentation because for some strange reason, they love to destroy our documentation. And because I speak with their tongue, I can only use the information in the artifacts that they've allowed me to have access to, since they are notorious for destroying any remembrance, a historical that's what I said, historical moments in time of people who look like me. That's why I like to say the part of North Africanized part of the Middle East, Mediterranean. This is the game. You know, anything that looks like me, that was created by me, like mathematics, astronomy, physics, science, philosophy, art, anything dealing with culture, they love to exclude me from that and insert themselves in it. So again, I'm going to bring in Dr. Cornel West first. Then I'm going to bring in some very nefarious individuals who, again, under the system of white supremacy, in those meritorious manumission papers, hey, these guys have PhDs in it. Because anyone who's willing to go up there and belittle what happened to our ancestors is someone that you always have to be cognizant of. You always have to be very afraid to even come in their presence. Because they're them same individuals that was there when Marcus Garvey was conducting his lifestyle line operation. These are the same people that was infiltrating the Nation of Islam. Same people who was infiltrating the Southern Christian leadership. Same people who infiltrated SNCC. Same people who infiltrated Black Panthers. These are the same people that was over there on the continent of Africa. Do you understand? The same people that was in South and Central America, undermining the people's movement, always to help and benefit the white supremacist structure. So I just want you to listen to Dr. Cornel West.
And very expressly, those in the United States. And I want to accent that. I know my dear sister Yvette Carnell and others have been trying to zero in on the varieties of blackness in the United States, and it's very important. We ought to love all people, we ought to love all black people. But when you come from a people who have been enslaved in their own country and built that country and still ended up being lynched after they were so-called freed. See, there's no Jim Crow in Jamaica, no Jim Crow in Barbados, no Jim Crow in Antigua, no Jim Crow in St. Kitts. We love our brothers and sisters there, but no Jim Crow there. Never in the history of the world for 240 years have there been enslaved people who were made citizens after a barbaric war, and for 12 years we do have a chance to create a multiracial democracy, but we lose it with the withdrawal of the military troops, and lo and behold, neo-slavery sets in for another 100 years, and therefore, lo and behold, you thought your expectations were elevated, thoroughly shattered, because you're right back into a neo-slavery. That's a different kind of experience for black folk who come from enslaved, Jim Crow blackness.
I couldn't put that even any better. Dr. Cornel West broke down to you what happened after the Civil War. The 100 plus years of legal segregation of Jim Crow. He called it Jane Crow and Jim Crow because the major beneficiaries of the system under white supremacy have always been white women. And if you check out history here in America, every movement that we had, white women decided to co-opt it. And because it was under the system of white male supremacy, they allowed these women to come in now. Again, the founding fathers of this nation explicitly excluded their own daughters, their own mothers, their own grandmamas from participating in the structure. They gave black men the right to vote before they gave black white women. Always got to remember, they had to pass a constitutional amendment in the 20th century. If I'm correct, I think it's the 19th Amendment to allow women to vote. This is how gangster these people are. So when he gave you a chronological of how Jim Crow is set up here in America and why we are extremely unique and exceptional people because of what was placed upon us after the Civil War, didn't even explicitly say it. For 12 years, yes, we ran things. We was in Congress. We had black senators. The state of South Carolina, the first to secede during the Civil War, hey, it was filled with black men. They just had a great special. I really would love for all you people to pay attention to it. I have my children watch it. It's called Reconstruction After the Civil War. And it gives you the actual footage and the documentation of what happened after the Civil War. And when Dr. Cornel West says that they pulled back the Union troops, yeah, the North and the South made a deal with one another. Hey, we're not going to keep harming each other. Come on, man, because under white supremacy, they're just going to shake hands and keep on moving because it was in the benefit of them. And when they pulled them troops back, oh, man, boy, did my people catch hell. Yeah, like, again, previous episodes, I always talk about how there was a Black Wall Street era because we couldn't go anywhere and function anywhere. And what they set up after that was so notorious and nefarious. This is how gangster America is. Again, Barbados, Brazil, let me see, Haiti, Jamaica, the Bahamas, all of these places. Jim Crow wasn't set up over there. It was not set up over there. See, my ancestors built this. And so now when I go forward and I show you these hearings, I want you to understand, it was descendants of slaves. It was Africans, descendants of slaves, Africans, black men that built the building that houses the congressmen and the senators, built the building that the president of the United States lives in. Because you got to remember, we work for free. We was property. So for them to be having a hearing in a building that was built by my ancestors, and then they make you say like, we were illiterate and uneducated. Well, then how did we build all these structures? How did we know how to do that? Because we are master craftsmen. Now that has been lost because we was excluded once the Civil War came into existence and Reconstruction. And they flooded the nation with people from Eastern Europe. So you got to understand, the immigration policies here in America has always been to constantly displace and make people who look like me irrelevant. So now I'm going to show you just the, again, I don't want to call these individuals in negative names. I just want you to listen to them. Listen to them very close because you're going to say, wait, who is this guy? This is the gangsterism of America. It don't get no bigger than these people. Again, meritorious manumission damaged us because it had us fight against each other. Well, we could never get on one accord, which is why even today in the 21st century, 2019, we still can't come together because it's in our DNA. It's flowing through these veins. It's flowing through what they did to us. It's embedded in here. And the only way we're going to ever get rid of that, either you go and grab these individuals, you know, the same people who told on Nat Turner, the same people who snitched on Delmar Vesey, the same people who infiltrated Marcus Garvey's operation, the same people who infiltrated the Nation of Islam. These individuals have to either be excommunicated, taken out to the woodshed and be dealt with, or we just open up all our veins and let that white supremacy out of there because it's in us. No matter why we might look like this, they've created an individual that will always function for the betterment of others than us. All right, you ready? Here we go.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm going to take a different tack from the beginning. We are at this point, this is not about black and white, rich or poor, blue collar, white collar. We're fighting for the heart and soul of our nation. We have a very, very special country that started with the Judeo-Christian values that allowed every single generation to become better than the last. And that has not ended, that has not stopped until now. We're telling our kids a little bit something different, that they don't have the opportunities that we had. I'm going to talk about some ideologies. And when I talk about them, I'm not talking about people. People change. I used to be a Democrat until I did my history and found out the misery that party brought to my race. So when I talk about these ideologies don't change, people do. We are fighting for the heart and soul of our nation against socialism, Marxism, and the evil that it has brought to us in the stealing of our history. Karl Marx said it best, the father of socialism, an atheist, anti-Semite, and a blatant racist. Yet we teach his philosophy in our school systems today. He said it, the first battleground is rewriting of our history. You steal our history, you steal our pride in our past, our appreciation for our present.
Did you get that? Did you get that? Did you hear Mr. Burgess Owens? When he mentions the word Judeo-Christian, it shows you how powerful the meritorious manumission papers were. He wants his freedom no matter what. Judeo-Christian. These words, that's the power of how white supremacy is. They play with these words. I'm sorry, let me turn it up. Hear about it? There we go. All right. They play with the words. There's nothing Christian about America. Never was. Never was. Those people who talk about that, well, when you committed mass genocide on the native population, when you brought my ancestors over here on the bottom and hulls of them ships, where we shitted on each other, we peed on ourselves, and if you felt that you needed, some extra money, you just throw us overboard and say, hey, we lost them. Go file an insurance claim and make some money, because we were not considered humans. We spoke a different language. We looked different, even though we're the ones who gave you knowledge. And then for him to say, we lost. Do you understand? That was Malcolm X. Malcolm X said,
show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community, and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear.
Now, the reason why that is, that's because under the system of white supremacy, they picked out our leaders, which is why they were talking about, where's the black leaders? The black leaders. There's no such animal as a black leader. Everyone is a leader in their own. But under white supremacy, they feel we need somebody as a conduit, a go-between, to keep them in place. To keep them in place, which is why they would pick out a particular slave and allow him to, be taken under the tutelage of the white preachers and to read certain passages in the book. You got to remember now, it was illegal for us to read. But they put this individual up there, and it said he's a retired former football player. Well, why is he up there talking about reparations? Why is he up there talking about that? Because once again, this is how they conduct themselves. See, this is why I led off with Mr. Nita Fuller's when he talks about we are born into captivity. We are captured people. And because we're captured people, they can do and treat us any kind of way they want to. Which is why this individual up there and say, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. But you know what I noticed, what was on the panel? You had a guy who wrote a book, that's Ta-Nehisi Coates. You have a guy who's an actor, and Danny Glover. Then you have this individual who's a retired football player. And then the next kid is like 25, 26 years old. Who knows what he's talking about? But then he had a Catholic priest, black guy. Then he had a white woman up there. This is the games that they play. Now I'm going to say this to you. Right there in the halls of Congress, they know what was done to us. Why? Because it was done through the laws of America. Plessy versus Ferguson, the Dred Scott decision, the Three-Fifths Compromise that allowed Missouri to maintain a slave state while they was helping the North. See, this is how gangster they are. This is how gangster they are. They know what the emancipation of D.C. was when they gave the slave holders reparations, when they freed a few slaves that was in, Washington, D.C. They gave them each $300. And the wildest thing is, this is not taught in the school systems. This is not taught in the school systems. And I'm a major proponent of it. I want my reparations. I know my ancestors were slaves here in this country that worked on them fields. I don't mind those because I went and did it with my brothers. And I worked in them fields. And I worked with nothing. There wasn't no Mexicans. The The only reason you see Mexicans now and people from South and Central America is because my ancestors and my family now, the descendants of slaves, are not doing those jobs no more. Well, why would we do them? Why would we do them? Why would we do them? We was forced to do them anyway. We was forced to do them while this nation became rich and rich and rich and became now allegedly the richest country that ever exists on this planet. Well, how was that capable of happening? A possibility. Well, maybe it's because you worked people for 300 plus years for free, and then you bred us to create more slaves. And then when you freed us, you decided, let me set up another obstacle. Oh, and then after those 100 years, you decided, you know what? We're going to open the gates and we're going to let all these other people from the South and Central America and the Caribbean to flood the nation too, because we can't have these former slaves thinking they are citizens. And I'm going to say this again. We're still not citizens. We're not citizens. They had to pass a constitutional amendment, the 14th Amendment, to guarantee me my quasi-citizenship, which is why most of any laws that was written for us were executive orders. It never went through the Congress. And because Congress is the legislative body of this nation, it has to be done through Congress. You see how gangster they are? Now, let me give you this next guy. Because this next guy is he's just fascinating. He's a fascinating individual. Listen very close to this guy.
Thank you, Chairman Cohen, Ranking Member Johnson, and members of the committee. It's an honor to testify on a topic as important as this one. Nothing I'm about to say is meant to minimize the horror and brutality of slavery and Jim Crow. Racism is a bloody stain on this country's history, and I consider our failure to pay reparations directly to freed slaves after the Civil War to be one of the greatest injustices ever perpetrated by the U.S. government. But I worry that our desire to fix the past compromises our ability to fix the present.
Hey, the reason why I stopped it right there, because there's nothing else for you to hear from this, what this guy says. To fix our present, let me explain something to you. If you don't know your past, you won't comprehend your present. And since you don't know your past and you can't comprehend your present, you will never be able to control your future. See, this is how white supremacy works. They tell you, don't focus on your past. Worry about what you could do right now as you move forward. But you ever notice how they constantly going back? We just had the July 4th, and they had the celebration. He had the president, and up there just all his pomp and, his America, USA. They love to talk about their past. They love to mythologize their past. But when it comes to people who look like me, now this individual, his name is Coleman Hughes. We've got to find out through Tariq Nasheed. This guy's last name is Cruz. And why would you have someone who's not a descendant of a slave up there? You know why? Because this is the same way how in the 1980s, when the United States wanted to justify invading Iraq, they brought the ambassador to Kuwait's daughter in front of Congress and had her sit up there and say that Saddam Hussein was throwing babies out of incubators. Now, the reason why I go there to go here is because it's to show you how powerful white supremacy is. They know how to distract you with the most mundane and asinine individuals that they can find just to suit their narrative. They would go to any length. Now, this nation can never really repay us for what was done, because I want you to understand something. Under the system of slavery, chattel slavery, here on the North American continent, I can't talk about what happened to other places, because then that would just play games with you. I don't talk about what happened in Barbados or in Haiti or Nicaragua or Brazil or Honduras. No. But here, they sold us from place to place on auction blocks. Wall Street, that was us. Where the Capitol is, where the White House is, that was us that was sold on that land mass. But just think about this. They can come inside my chicken coop, my slave quarters, sleep with the woman. You gotta remember, it was illegal for us to be married. So whoever I was having relations with, they can come in there and sleep with her anytime they want to. And because I'm 6'5", well, I might have been one of them bucks that they had over there in the hen house, sleeping with all the bad wenches to produce bigger bucks. Or if it was someone like me who talks about these types of issues, they might just put me in the front and buck break me right in front of my family, in front of everybody. Now, buck breaking was when they would rape you, gang bang you, to put you in a subservient position. See, when you hear people, especially black men, talking about we need to bring the black man back in the household, under the system of white supremacy, they never allowed you in the household. Because under the system of slavery, we were never allowed to be men, which is why they could treat us the way. That's why they was called boy. You couldn't look a white man in his eye. You couldn't raise your family. Do you understand that? And then from them raping our women, what do you think they did with those kids? So now we the face of deadbeat daddies. Well, go look at Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and all those individuals. And look how many children they was able to produce from raping our women. See, they like to dress it up and want you to think that we had choices. We didn't have a choice. Where could we go? Where could we go? Here in America, where could we go? We couldn't run nowhere because of our complexion. We couldn't blend in. So these individuals they had on these during the Juneteenth was an outright disgrace. You had an actor, you had a book writer, you had a Catholic priest, of all people, a Catholic priest. These are the same individuals, the Catholic Church, that sanctioned Portugal and Spain to go and use the doctrine of discovery, take all the land and use, Genesis 22nd, verse 22, it talks about how they're supposed to go and plant their seeds and everything. They should be able to control and subdue any moving creature and plant their flag. And as long as it's under the doctrine of discovery, they can take whatever they want. This is the system that we still are under, which is why I constantly use Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And matter of fact, when I finish this episode, I'm going to leave off with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. because you need to comprehend why we find ourselves in this position. So the individuals that I showed you, Mr. Owens, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Cruz, these individuals will continue to maintain their meritorious manumission papers because they don't want to go back on the field. They don't want to go back in that field because in that field is brutal. But if I can stay in the big house, maybe I can get an extra plate of those butter biscuits. Maybe I can get the master's clothes when he's finished. And I got to keep walking around with no shoes on. You understand? See, this is how gangster America is. But they do it everywhere. They know how to deal with the descendants of slaves. All on this planet. All on this planet. They know how to deal with them. Why? Because they've had centuries to refine white supremacy. And gangster nation. Once again, this is Jerrald President. Politics, economics, the struggle to survive in America. Peace.
Black people are prisoners of war. The non-white people of the planet in the system of white supremacy were born in captivity. We're still born in captivity, all of us. Everybody of color on the planet is born in captivity. Captivity to whom? To racist man and racist woman, the white supremacists of this planet. You're born inside of their prison because they dictate what you do in all 9 areas of activity and what you don't do. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.